Hi guys, welcome to Office Blokes Reacts. I'm Office Bloke Dave.
I'm Office Bloke Mike.
I'm Office Bloke Daz.
Together, all three of us are from Real, sunny Real.
Isn't it?
Yeah, isn't it?
Is that your Welsh? Is that your Welsh accent?
Indeed it is. I'm part Welsh.
Which part?
What part of Islamabad is that Welsh accent from?
My mum's gran was from Wales,
I'm sorry.
so so was I.
Sorry
I'm not
about
sure.
that, Mike.
I'm not sure which part though, to be honest. So I better find out before I start bragging about it.
Yeah, fair enough.
Anyway,
8 words Americans surprisingly don't use.
I mean, a lot of words.
There's a word I can think of that would get demonetised if we say.
No, I don't think we swear words.
So we say thwait instead, but they say twat.
Yeah. But these words that you use, because I remember asking for an ice lolly from the ice cream man, and the guy just looked at me. Whatever he was going to get, he was turning around, he had his hand in the freezer.
Popsicle.
And I said, ice lolly. And he went, what? I went, whatever you were going to get then.
Yeah.
I'll have one of them.
So it's going to involve ice and some sort of lolly stick, so figure it out.
Was it? I think you've mentioned one before. Was one of them butter or margarine or something?
That was pronunciation.
Pronunciation.
Was it? Right, okay. I mean, there's probably things in slang that they use that we don't use, like in the boot or trunk of the car, things like that. But I'm not sure.
Imagine these little slang, like I say, slang words.
There's lots of slang, won't there? But
They mean everything that's used every day over here.
Yeah.
That probably never even heard of in the USA.
yeah.
If you didn't speak any English, the one word you need to know is all right, and you can just say that in so many different contexts.
No, not
you
really.
okay there, mate? All right.
Yeah. You might broke your leg and someone says, "Are you okay?" And you go, "All right."
You go, all right, all right, all right. It's all about how you say it, isn't it? Can mean anything. Let's do it. 8 words Americans surprisingly don't use.
Thousands of people stood in line to say goodbye to our longest reigning monarch.
Was
And
this
this
new?
very quickly became the most British thing ever,
Looks
because
it.
something we like even more than rain is queuing up for stuff.
Not Holly and Phil.
They're getting what they're going to get cancelled. But listen to this: 2 of the biggest. BBC reported yesterday that the funeral was the most watched programme on the BBC since the London Olympics closing ceremony in 2012.
That's
Really?
sad.
So it goes to show how much shit content the BBC put out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not something to brag about, really, is it?
Live content,
point,
though,
that.
because if you think about David Attenborough stuff, that goes around the world and is watched by
It's
billions.
not, it's not,
But
I'm not
not
talking
live.
No, it's most people. No, it don't matter. Most people tuned in.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So so you've got a closing ceremony, right, which is something that's finished.
This is
and
a closing
live that's
ceremony
finished.
as well.
Yeah. And something they've had nothing to do with putting together.
It goes to show how fucking grim the British people are,
Yeah.
and
Morbid.
morbid. Yeah.
Did you not know
Just
the
one
Holly
thing
and
to
Phil?
end.
Did you not know the Holly and Phil thing?
No.
They although
jumped the queue.
Although apparently it's
really?
under press passes, they jumped the queue to walk past the Queen's body.
Yeah.
But I'm kind of like, they filmed them walking past the coffin, so it was for press purposes.
Yeah.
But then when you've got people like David Beckham that queued up for 13 hours to do
Yeah.
it and didn't use his status to jump the queue, there's a petition to get them cancelled now.
37,000 people signed it as of yesterday. They said they didn't jump the queue. Got video footage of them fucking cutting in the fucking side door. Right.
Yeah.
The bit that gets me about this, right, is the whole thing about the Queen is that everyone thinks that she's up there and we're all down here, right? So what gives these fucking pompous pricks the right, like Phil Schofield and Holly Willoughby, to fucking just think they're up there as well, and we don't need to queue you peasants. Fuck off.
Yeah.
I think it's
Fuck right off.
I think it's an oversight, considering they work for a show where someone's probably gone, right, we've got you two in at 3 o'clock.
What do they need
and
them
we're
to in for? It's been coverage on every
Oh, I know.
fucking TV channel.
I know.
Yeah.
Every angle
It's
of every
for
fucking
their-
minute of the day.
I think
it's there.
I
It's
think
for their benefit, isn't it?
We don't
That's
need
all.
them dickheads coming in and
I
going,
think I'm
look at me.
sort of being devil's advocate, but I think they filmed a shot of them walking past the coffin and
Don't
used,
give a
used
shit.
it in the show.
Don't
so
care.
it was under the guise of press.
Yeah, but I don't need to
rather
see
than-
them.
Right.
No, I don't give a shit.
They've not died yet.
Yeah, I don't give a shit. I'm sort of being devil's advocate with this, but I also don't agree with just cancelling people for everything.
No, but what gives them the right
Yeah.
to jump the queue? It's a fucking
Nothing.
queue. It's a queue to see the Queen laying in wait,
Yeah.
right? Not fucking for you to get fucking segment on your show.
Yeah, it's not Alton Towers and you bought your band
Bought
to
band,
get to
yeah,
the front
you're not
on the
getting fast
rides
track, yeah.
first. Yeah.
Bit different, that, isn't it?
So fuck them right off is what I say. Let someone else have a go now. You've had your chance.
Like maybe some blokes this time instead, not just
Yeah.
women.
Yeah.
Maybe 3.
Fuck them right off.
Us doing this morning. Can you imagine?
I'll give us about 4 minutes.
Yeah.
Good morning, you chunts.
We won't get past the intro, would we?
No.
And now we're going to speak to someone who is allegedly a bit of a nonce.
Hello, I'm Lawrence, and I'm on a quest to uncover all of the memos that Britain and America lost in the pond, and one of those memos pertains to words. Specifically, words that I used all the time in Britain and fully expected to use again in America. Only America, being full of surprises, taught me that not every word we use is universal within the English-speaking world. One word that is universal is subscribe, so do that now if you haven't. On this channel, I've looked extensively at American English words that aren't very common in Britain. And now, just as Queen Elizabeth II would surely have wanted, Lost in the Pond is going to do the very same, but in reverse. Here are 8 surprising English words that Americans don't really use.
Argy-bargy.
With some of these words, you can almost hear them in an American accent, and with others, you really can't. And I'd say the latter is true for the word argy-bargy. And right now, there are probably a lot of Americans thinking, that's not a real word, you are a liar, Lawrence Brown. And I think I'd think that too if I hadn't grown up in Britain, but argy-bargy is a real word, and it means to get into a real audible argument with somebody. And while it sounds like a humorous word that belongs in Monty Python or something, argy-bargy can be a pretty serious matter. See also handbags. You're confused, I can tell. That's okay, but after this video, I just want to hear Americans using argy-bargy in a sentence, because just how weird would that be? Argy.
It is right. It's
The R's. Yeah, it won't work.
I don't know what it means, do you?
It's
I know
like-
what it means.
Yeah.
I don't know what
Oh,
it
you don't
stands
know where it
for.
comes from,
I don't know where it
right.
comes from.
No
what it stands
idea.
for.
Yeah, no idea about the
Well, I
The
origins. Yeah.
Well, barging is like pushing and shoving.
Yeah, that's what argy-bargy is. When you start shoving, you have a little bit of a shove, which is
Yeah.
handbags, same as what
Yeah.
you
So
said.
argy, I suppose that's shortened for argument. Is it something maybe? Maybe it's shortened to argument.
Barging. Yeah.
Barging.
So when an
argy-bargy.
argument goes a little bit past the argument,
With someone
and
from
there's
Buenos Aires.
yeah, and there's a bit of pushing and shoving, because that's argy-bargy for me isn't just the argument. That's when it gets a bit heated.
Oh, it's
and
got
there's
a bit of pushing and shoving.
tussle.
But it's not particularly violent argy-bargy. It's
No.
more like it's a bit of
Just pushing and
like
shoving.
handbags and pushing and shoving in it, and just getting a bit overheated.
Lawrence has got to be careful here, though. He said handbags. You get cancelled for saying handbags nowadays.
What, for argy-bargy?
There was a football commentator got sacked for it, wasn't it, a couple of years ago?
Did get sacked for it?
Well, he got in trouble.
Yeah.
He got
I think there's been
reprimanded.
the last 12 months. There's been a few things like where commentators have said some
Yeah,
things which are
ooh,
just,
handbags, and instantly people writing their angry
Yeah.
letters to
Well,
the
They
BBC.
can't even call him man of the match now, can they? It's got to be player of the match or something.
I've sent another message asking for non-commentary on the TV, please. Just give me audio,
yeah.
stadium audio.
That's all you need.
Yep.
Yeah.
Using argy-bargy in a sentence, because just how weird would that be? Argy-bargy. Because you really sound out your R's, and it just takes it to a new level of completion.
From Cornwall.
Yeah, I was going to say. Yeah.
Argy.
I think it's well known that Britain is well known for its well-known rainfall, and almost every human on the island has to have some way of protecting themselves from that rain. And I'm not just talking about bush shelters, although that is my preferred method. No, I'm talking about umbrellas, like the invisible one that I apparently have here. Umbrellas is, of course, the standard name that I think we both use in Britain and America, but in Britain, we also like to use the word brolly. It just sounds nice. It almost gives a sense of quaintness to the rain. In America, for the most part, I think you have a different relationship with rain. And that could be because in many parts of the country, when you get rain, it absolutely belts it down for 5 minutes and then stops. So you don't even need an umbrella in that situation. I don't know where I'm going with this, because Americans definitely use umbrellas. They just never called them brollies. What they did call them at one point in time was a bumbershoot. Some Americans I've spoken to think that
Jamaican,
bumbershoot was a
Yeah, bumbershoot.
It turns out it was actually called in the United States, and most British people have never heard of it.
That's a great name, though.
Cheeky.
Cheeky. This used to be a big part of my vocabulary. Because in Britain, if you call somebody cheeky, that just means that they are a little bit mischievous. They're sort of adorable in a I can't believe you did that kind of way. And so it's often coupled.
You can't do it in a monotone way, though. Cheeky. Like he says, it's got to be cheeky.
Cheeky.
Oh, cheeky.
Yeah.
I don't know. I never realised Americans didn't use that. I thought it'd be like a universal word.
Well, it's changed. It's kind of changed over here as well now, because Nando's sort of like
Cheeky Nando's.
Everyone's saying we're gonna have a cheeky Nando's, didn't they?
Oh, did it?
So like,
Right.
took it over, but everyone's going for a cheeky pint. You know,
Yeah.
lunchtime. Do you fancy it?
What
Going
sort
for
of
a
thing-
cheeky Swifty.
What would they use for cheeky then? What sort of turn of phrase would they use, you think?
Wise guy,
Yeah. Right, yeah.
maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's quite a flamboyant word, cheeky, potentially, isn't it?
Yeah. It's something you never think about, is
It's
it?
got a few
Really?
different meanings over here now, especially if you see a girl with a big fat ass. I always say cheeky.
That's because
Because it's the first thing that springs to mind.
yeah.
They're sort of adorable in a I can't believe you did that kind of way. And so it's often coupled with an equally mild insult like sod or so-and-so. You cheeky little so-and-so. Sorry, Mum, that was the best impression I could do. She doesn't have a beard. And as I sit here now just sort of reacting to these words, I can't really think what the American equivalent would be. Oh, you cheeky little so-and-so. That sounds weird, so there's got to be an alternative. I can't think of any, so just let me know in the comments
Mischievous.
below. And while we're on the subject, just a cheeky shout out to my patrons who make these videos possible. If you would like to become a patron of Lost in the Pond, you can do so today at patreon.com/lostinthepond. Something I've learned.
They call it saran wrap, don't they? in
Stretch wrap.
America? Stretch wrap.
Saran wrap.
Right. No, I didn't know that.
14 years of living in America is that some things just take on a different name due to branding. And one of those things is something that I've always referred to as cling film. As you can see on here, that is not how Americans do it. Plastic wrap is the generic term here. But when I first moved here, my wife was referring to it by the mysterious name of saran wrap, which I believe is a brand name. But I can tell you this, that saran wrap, plastic wrap, or cling film does work on either side of the pond and is very effective for shutting up YouTube sensations. Don't try this at home, folks. There's a bit of a breathable hole. I'm just gonna see, should I do the rest of the video like this? Probably there's a bit of a glare. I don't know why I did any of this. It was just so that I could show you that cling film is exactly the same on either side of the pond, no matter what we call it.
It's a shit product.
Next up, and I can't even read it because that's in the way. Next up, flyover.
That's what we call the bridge down there.
We do. The flyover.
I just thought they used that in the USA.
Is it not
flyover?
It's got a different
Overpass or
concept.
something? Did they
Overpass,
use
yeah.
maybe?
I think flyover would be more the flyover states in the middle, wouldn't it?
Or
Yeah.
the plane flying over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's literally a bridge over here,
Yeah, it's
isn't
a
it?
bridge, yeah. A bridge over a road.
Yeah.
But we call that a flyover over there.
Yeah,
But there's none others around Manchester or anywhere in the country that I'd call a flyover.
No,
I'd call it a bridge.
Mancunian Way.
I wouldn't call it a flyover.
I wouldn't call it a
When you get to the bottom
flyover.
of- when you got it's called the Mancunian Way flyover.
I've never heard
I've never called it a flyover. I just called it the Mancunian Way.
Oh, there's loads.
There probably is, but
there must be. It's not just an
That's known as a
Altrincham thing.
flyover. That's all I've ever known it as.
Yeah, the
Because you grew up
flyover.
round there, and that's you point out when you go somewhere else, they're all flyovers.
Yeah, I suppose they are. Yeah, yeah.
Up in the English town of Grimsby, there is a part of road that you're driving along and suddenly it goes up over the stuff underneath it. And my whole life, this was referred to as the flyover. And it was magical when I was a kid because when we drive over it as a family, I imagined we were in the film Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, which makes no sense. The cars don't actually leave the ground. But when you're a kid and you hear the word flyover and the car is going up, you can very easily convince yourself that you are in fact Dick Van Dyke. But I quickly learned that in America, where these things are very commonplace, the word flyover isn't used. Instead, they refer to it as an overpass. And that's probably sensible because Americans do use the word flyover when referring to flyover states, as in states in the middle of the country that you bypass when flying from, say, New York to San Francisco.
In Israel, they're called Passover.
A Jewish joke, but possibly the safest Jewish joke anyone's ever done as well.
Just like America, Britain has its own words when it comes to food. Think of chips instead of fries. But it also has words specifically pertaining to the eating of food and the feeling of being hungry. And one of those words is peckish. Just about every 11 a.m. that I spent in Britain would see that word emanate from my lips. And I can already hear my wife's cousin Chad going, "What does it mean, Lawrence?" but in an American accent. And peckish just means hungry. So for example, I'm feeling a bit peckish, I might have a nibble. And for some reason I imagined Hannibal Lecter while I said that. So to clarify, we do use it about food and not people. And before we get onto this, I have heard it said that the word peckish did used to have a bit of traction in the United States, but it's become archaic.
No.
I do associate peckish with like eating like a bird though, like it's
it's like
grazing.
Want a bit of a snack, rather than a full meal.
Pecking, you're hungry. If you're ready for your food, you're hungry. If you're not that
Starving.
hungry, but you're not. Yeah, well,
That's what we usually say, isn't it?
Yeah.
Starving.
But you're not really, are you?
No.
You're just pretty hungry.
We're all starving. Every time you stop eating a meal, you're technically starting to starve.
Yeah. Or you Hank.
Technically, Hank. Yeah, Hank Marvin.
Hank Marvin.
But it's peckish I associate with just feeling a little bit, might have a cookie or a biscuit type
Snacky.
Yeah, I
snacky
reckon so.
sort of thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Jacket potato. We talked about this the other day, didn't we, with spuds? And
Yeah.
did they use the word spud in America?
And apparently they do.
A fair few people commented and said they do, didn't they?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right.
Anyway, potatoes. This, as it is a potato that is straight out of the bag. Nothing has yet been done to it. But there are many things we could do to this. We could fry it, we could roast it, we could boil it, or we could make it into what Americans refer to as a baked potato. And it makes sense. You are, in fact, baking it in the microwave, usually, because I'm lazy. But it did take me a few goes at describing that very type of potato to Americans before I realised that we don't call it the same thing. To us, at least in England, that would be called a jacket potato. And why jacket? Because we're constantly thinking about the weather, but also because when you cut it in half, the sliced skin looks like a jacket round the potato, which I suppose is just another way of making our food feel like people. Don't tell Hannibal Lecter that.
Go on.
I tend to call it baked potato.
I say baked potato.
I say jacket potato.
I never say jacket potato.
No, me neither.
Never. I always say baked potato.
Yeah, same.
I think some of it may come from the fact that potatoes were such a staple part of the diet for so long over here that there's a million different ways to do potatoes. So you're cooking it with its jacket on. And it was like a little...
When you
got its jacket on.
Well, what do you call skin on fries then? Jacket fries?
No, they didn't. They didn't have such things back then. It'd be baked potato sticks.
But you don't call it baked potato. You called it jacket potato.
I know.
So would it be jacket potato
It's a confusing
sticks?
place to live.
We'll do waistcoat jacket potatoes.
A waistcoat jacket. Yeah, that's what
Best
it is.
potatoes.
Small,
Just trim it a bit.
And now for the final word, a word that I've seen all week on news outlets in both Britain and America, and the very word that prompted this entire video, and that word is queue. Thousands of people stood in line to say goodbye to our longest reigning monarch. And this very quickly became the most British thing ever, because something we like even more than rain is queuing up for stuff. Ideally in the rain, so long as you've got a brolly and a jacket potato. And the queue became such a prominent part of the week's headlines that its very definition seems to have evolved before our eyes. I can almost imagine a world in which, 10 years from now, people will use the queue to refer specifically to that time that they queued up for 407 years to say goodbye to Liz 2. Anyway, that's a long-winded way of arriving at the fact that Americans on the whole don't use the word queue. They didn't even reform the spelling of it to remove all of the vowels, which would have been fair enough. Instead, they just simply call it a line, which, when you're thinking about it, under certain circumstances, we do that in Britain too, especially when referring to the monarchy and the next in line to the throne. And that's it for this episode. Of course, there are many more such words that didn't catch on in America, so let me know your favourites below. I'm Lawrence Brown. Go and follow me on Twitter at LostInThePondUS.
Nice one.
Yeah,
good one.
I've heard people say waiting in line in the UK.
These it's the wait in line. It's both. I think queue and line.
If you're going to
both
do
used.
something, it's more like I'm going to queue up, not I'm going to line up.
Yeah.
You'd more say I'm going to queue up, I think, wouldn't you?
It's in schools. Can everyone line up?
It's the
Yeah.
word before and after that kind of
is.
dictates
It
which
depends-
word you're going to use.
Depends
doesn't
what
it?
context you're going to use it in,
I think,
doesn't it? But
I think if you're lining up to do something, to take part in something, right?
yeah,
Or if you're waiting for something, you're queuing up.
yeah. Like in game football, you line up a wall, don't you?
Yeah.
For a free
You
kick
line
and
up.
things like
Yeah.
that. So, yeah, I think right there. We use both.
So you wait in line at the checkout or you queue up at the till.
Possibly.
Yeah, maybe.
Or you
Yeah.
push in.
The queue.
Well, I'm next. It's funny because it's such a British thing. Because yesterday I went to pick my grandson up from school, and everyone's waiting at the gate, sort of like in a big huddle. And then they open the gates, and the girl says, "Everyone comes in now," because they have to give the kids to you, sort of thing. You don't, the kids don't come out. So everyone queues up. So I was in the queue, but my wife was about 4 people ahead of me in the queue. All right. So I ducked out the queue and was reading the notice board of what the kids were learning at school. But the girl behind me left that space all the way to the front in case I wanted to come back.
Yeah.
Right.
I went to a pub
Fair play.
went to a pub in Cornwall, and it's like been there for hundreds of years. It's a really small building, and a guy was ahead of me going into the guy's toilets. Opened the first door, and then saw another door and instinctively just waited at that
so you
door.
open it.
Didn't push it open, so I waited behind him because I assumed he knew something I didn't. And then a queue formed behind me. And then when the next guy came out, it was literally like that was a door to get in somewhere where there was 2 urinals and a toilet. And like we'd all been queuing there because this guy at the front didn't want to open the door. But then he opened the door, went in and locked it. So he locked the room that had a couple of urinals. And I was like, we're all stood there queuing like a fucking knob just because this guy didn't go like that.
Them to where you've got 2 toilets and someone locks the door, does my head in.
Man.
Well,
Proper irritates
he
me.
locked the door to the whole bathroom.
That's what I'm saying. If it's 2 toilets,
What are you hiding?
I know you can get 2 people in there. Use it, especially if there's a queue.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I've even shuffled around the bowl and let someone else piss in the bowl
What toilets do you go to?
where there's a queue.
Yeah.
Usually at like a footy match or I don't know where there's fucking mass people.
Yeah.
And you got to get a move on.
Yeah.
Goes to the type so you don't have to hold your own thing.
Exactly.
Stand there like that and someone will do it for you.
That's what I say. Shake it and finished.
Be quick about it. Quicker.
Oh, you've been. That was good. That.
Oh dear. Yeah,
Hope you guys enjoyed it. Don't forget to like and subscribe. We'll catch you on the next one.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers.